Welcome, everybody. We will be starting the show in about 2 minutes. Happy Father's Day to all you pops there. Just chewing some gum. We'll start in just a sec, fellas. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. All right, fellas, welcome to I Love the Weird for Sunday. We usually do it, or we try to do it on a Saturday, but stuff happens. Weird stuff happens. Welcome to the June 16th version of the show. I appreciate you being here and spending some time with me. Happy Father's Day, like I said, to everybody out there. I hope you had a good one. Some people in the chat are talking about come on, Jaffe. They had a good Father's Day, and that's good stuff. So I'm glad it went well for you. We're supposed to celebrate later tonight, so we've not done anything, but I wanted to get a show to you guys because there's some weird fucking shit going on. If you don't know what this is, yes, you've come to a games channel, but once a week we do a show called I Love the Weird where we talk about UFOs and aliens and weird brain shit and ghosts and all kinds of weird, crazy, gross out stuff sometimes. So we got a buffet of options today, fellas. I do want to let you know, in a couple of weeks, I will be going to the Vegas Zack Museum of Death or Horror or whatever the fuck it's called. And, you know, I'm agnostic on all this stuff. I'm a fan of it all. I want to believe. I definitely believe there's weird shit going down out there, but I'm not so ready to jump and believe that I'll believe anything, but it's fun to talk about. And I do think we are creeping towards what somebody I follow on Twitter just recently, she said, she was talking about the Harvard UFO paper, aliens paper that we'll talk about in a minute. And she said, this is what slow disclosure looks like, meaning that we are continually being fed little drips of information about what's really going on so that when the aliens or the time travelers or the interdimensional beings or the angels or the demons or whatever the fuck it ends up being comes to pass and we end up having to sort of face the facts, it won't fry our fucking brains from like, oh my fucking God, that's crazy. So I believe there's stuff going on. I believe there's a lot of stuff we don't know about that is being kept from us and that we just haven't discovered. And I just love talking about it. So that's what this show is. I'm glad you're here with me. If you're over on the YouTube at the top, you'll notice a link. You can click that and call in with audio or video or both, probably audio only or video and audio. I don't just want to see you. I'm sure you're beautiful, but, and share your thoughts and stories and debates and all kinds of things. And I'll pop those up from time to time if you're watching over on Twitch or Twitter. But for YouTube, it should be popped up there and pinned at the top there. The time travelers being us from the future, correct, says K-Nubs? Yeah, I mean, that's one of the theories. We've talked about this before. I mean, if you actually listen to some of the people that are coming out of some of the Congress folks, senators coming out of those meetings that are happening, they've actually gone on record with reporters and said, we never said this was aliens. If you listen to Grush, who's the whistleblower of the moment, he mentioned interdimensional beings. So it sounds like they're kind of pushing that, whether you're talking about from another dimension or from another time, I don't fucking know. But it's interesting stuff. J Lord drops a super chat. This is not a game show, J Lord. I appreciate the super chat. Tuesday or Wednesday is the next Gavin in Games, which is our game show that happens a lot during the week. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'll be on Colin Moriarty's show tomorrow. And then Tuesday I might be on Jez Corden's show. So it may not be until Wednesdays, which I would do one on Wednesday because we didn't do one on Monday. I love the weird, God damn it, Jaffe, come on, stay focused. What's called Gavin Games, that J-Lord, I will get to your questions. So I appreciate the super chat, but we're not talking games here today. Alexa, remind me at 11:30 tonight to make sure I get J-Lord super chat on the schedule. Okay. There we go. All right. Here we go. So let's begin. Now, wouldn't you know that one of the people Donald Trump chose to sat down with this week, and this is not a political show, but one of the Logan boys, who was it? The guy who's fighting what's his face, Tyson. Trump sat down and did an interview with Logan Paul. And one of the questions that came up was, hey, man, what's up with the aliens, right? I mean, that's what, I think most people would ask presidents that. And I'm not going to play you the thing. You can go look for it yourself. I'll put the link in the thing. I'm getting it off coast to coast. But the two things emerged from it. One was that, Trump is kind of like, hey, man, I've had a lot of people who he says they're very handsome. Tom Cruise, who's tall, in his description, they're good people because they're good looking. That's how Trump is. Love him or hate him, how Trump is. Who have come to him from the Air Force and said, dude, there's stuff out there, we don't know what it is. Obviously, even if he knows shit, he's not going to talk about it. The other thing he said, though, I'm just going to tell you real quick. Donald Trump reminds me so much of one of my college roommates. I'm a fan of the guy, but the guy was such a bullshitter. I mean, he would never, he would just talk to fill the space of silence, right? And it was just like, at some point, you just stop going, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. And half of it, he's just pulling out of his butthole. Literally, Donald Trump talks to Logan Paul in this interview and says that there's so much interest in things like Area 51 and Roswell. And he's like, did you know that Roswell is the #1 tourist location in America? And it's like, no, it's not. No, it is. It's not even in the top 20. It doesn't mean there's not a lot of interest. Of course, there's a lot of interest. I'm very interested. I would love to go to Roswell. I would love to go to the goddamn Area 51, blah, blah, blah. But no. So, I mean, there's a point where it's just like, dude, just, okay, whatever. He just talks. I should turn my mic up a bit. Yeah, thank you for that, Mute Mo. I appreciate that. Let me get that going for you guys. Yes, I will turn up my mic, and we will be off to the races. But anyway, it's an interesting interview, but it's nothing that you haven't heard. Obama has said similar things. They kind of joke about it, and they're not really going to get into details with you. But, and they did ask him at the end, they said, and this is kind of one of the things that a lot of these Congress folks are struggling with. They're like, hey, man, if there was a program that had this data, is it possible that you wouldn't have access to it? And Donald Trump, is like, yeah, absolutely. So, we'll see where it goes. But I don't think Trump's going to be the one that comes out with the disclosure. But that is happening, and that did happen this week, and it is a little weird. Did I see the finalized debate for CNN, says DeNova? I know it's coming up on the 27th. I know they said that they are going to cut mics when someone goes over time, which is good. I know they said that they are going to have 2 ad breaks, in which time neither candidate will be able to meet with their people to kind of readjust their message. I don't know if they've said RFK made it into the mix or not. I certainly would like him in there because I think it would be, if nothing else, entertaining as fuck. But no, I haven't seen what the final lineup actually is. If you are curious briefly what the top 20 tourist attractions are in America, you can see, National Mall, Washington, Niagara Falls. I thought it was in Canada. New York State, French Quarter, Statue of Liberty, Old Faithful, the Strip, Smithsonian. Nothing on here. You can go all the way down to the 20th. There's nothing on here about Roswell. So that's kind of what we're dealing with at the moment, folks. Okay. A group of folks went out to the internet talking to our new best friend, ChatGPT, and in honor of Father's Day, they says to the computer, they says, "Hey man, can you tell us what the best dad jokes of all time are?" And I'm gonna give you a couple of them. But what I did think was interesting though, because look, I don't even believe there should be a column or a categorization of something called dad jokes. I think that's ridiculous. I don't think dad jokes are stupid. I think puns are punny. I think puns are funny. I like jokes and shit like that. I don't think they're any worse or better than any other kind of joke, but people like to say they're embarrassed by them. But here's the deal. Scientists have actually looked into dad jokes, and they think there's an evolutionary reason. We need dad jokes. This is a researcher who says, it's Mark Knudsen from Horace University Cognitive and Behavioral Lab writes for the British Psychological Society. He says, by teasingly striking their kids' egos and emotions without teetering into bullying, fathers build their resilience and train their kids to withstand minor attacks and bouts of negative emotion without getting worked up or acting out, teaching them the impulse control and emotional regulation. It basically, they say by continuing to tell their kids dad jokes that are so bad they're embarrassing, fathers push their kids' limits on how much embarrassment they can handle, and they show their kids that embarrassment isn't fatal. Again, I understand that science. I get it. But I don't get why they're embarrassing. They're funny. Listen to some of these, the ultimate dad jokes, according to AI, is what we're talking about here. Right, there's a good one. Awesome Tatum says, where do pirates get their hooks? Secondhand stores. That's pretty good. Listen to this. Why did the math book look sad? Because it had too many problems. That's not bad. Why don't skeletons fight each other? They don't have the guts. Come on. What do you call cheese that isn't yours? Nacho cheese. And the number one dad joke, according to ChatGPT anyway, is what do you get if you cross a snowman and a vampire? Frostbite. Come on now. $6 says, my dad parted and asked if I was talking shit behind his back. I was 15 and could not stop laughing. If I was talking shit behind his back. Oh, I get it, because he's walking away. I still don't understand what the fuck you're talking about. The point is, these are good jokes, and they're good old plain, clean dad jokes, just like we like in America. Cucamonga says, I feel that the mom jokes need to step it up. That's true. What's a pirate's favorite letter, says Dizzy Death? 'Tis the sea. That's right. My favorite one of all is, how do you make a tissue dance? You put a little boogie in it. Come on now. I do these jokes to my kids all the time. Still do. They're goddamn grown-ups. I do it all the time. Anyway, that's ChatGPT. Let's get into some weird shit. I'm not going to give it away right away. People who are watching this may actually know what they're looking at. You may have seen this before. If not, I'll tell you in a little bit. Do you have any idea what you're looking at on your screen right here? I'll give you a second to peruse it, to look at it. Even if you guess it right, or if you know the answer in the chat, I'm not going to tell you if you're right or wrong. But this is something that's real that we'll be talking about a little bit later in the show, and it relates to death. How about that? It relates to dying. What do you think about that, my friend? We'll get to that in a second, okay? Oh, that's terrible. Dizzy Death says it's Michael J. Fox's autograph. You're going to go to hell, sir. If I believed in hell, I would say you're going to go to hell. Here's something else we're doing a little bit later in the show. in about 20, 30 minutes. We are going to do a remote viewing experiment, right? So I have an object that's off camera. I will be looking at it, and I will be hoping that at least some of you out there have some psychic ability to try to guess what this object is, or at least describe it as best you can, either with a little sketch or some text, okay? And we'll do that a little bit later, but I want to give you a heads up to start priming the psychic pump for this. And I'm not doing a bit. I'm not making a joke. I'm looking at the thing right now. Our government has spent taxpayer money. They probably still are spending it, thinking, even though I know they shut down that particular project, the remote viewing project, in 80 or 83, thinking that this is a real way to gather evidence. And some people actually suggest that not only can you remote view a location or an object, you can do it through time as well. Is it real? I don't know, but I do know that there have been a number of cases where individuals seem to have the ability to actually do this on the regular. So we will be giving it a try a little bit later. You don't get any information or context. No, you get absolutely nothing. I will just look at it. I'll tell you when it's going to begin. And then, you guys can offer up whatever you're seeing or feeling in the chat, or you can call in. And then when I say stop, anything after that, I'm not going to take into account, but I want to see who got close to the describing or drawing the object I'm looking at. That'll be coming up in about 15, 20, 30 minutes. So stay tuned for that. The glass behind you shows the reflection. No, it really doesn't, because there's a gajillion things I'm looking at. How will you know? But Jacob, it's a good attempt. Yeah, that was one of the bases for the men who stare at goats. That's right. That's right. And there is a, what's really interesting, and we'll talk about on this show as well, is there is, more and more evidence coming out that, people who are attuned to certain psychic abilities, or people who actually have reported seeing UAPs or UFOs, that those folks are actually, there are criteria for those folks. And what came out of this remote viewing program that the government officially has canceled, it's probably still going on, is they're like, look, the mistake we made was thinking we could just take soldiers and teach them how to do this shit. It's not that any more than you could just take an average person off the street and say, go be a great pianist. It's like there are people that are wired, and you have to get the people that are wired. And when you put them into the program, stuff that seems like magic starts to happen, right? So we're going to be getting into that, and I'll tell you what the criteria are that came out this week in a study, that the people who tend to actually spot UAPs and UFOs have these criteria over the people who don't. So that's pretty interesting, and it's semi-tangentially related. But before we get to that, I want to talk about cryogenics a little bit. There's a lot of talk lately, and again, like I said, you can call in. If you call in it now, you can call in. It doesn't mean I'm going to bring you on right away. So you might come in 5 minutes. You might take 30 minutes from bringing you on. But if you want to get in the queue, put yourself in there, click the link at the top of the YouTube, and we'll talk about all this stuff live. But anyway, I want to talk about cryogenics a little bit. There's a lot of news stories out in the last year about a lot of these rich folks, especially ones that live up in the Silicon Valley, going, we're working on the forever pill. We want to live forever. We want to, extend life from 100 years to 300 years, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, this has been something people have wanted for the longest time. I don't know. We always talk about this on this show. I mean, it's a fascinating topic to me, which is, if it turns out, there's nothing after life, and we can scientifically prove that you die and it goes black, and you have no consciousness, then how do we respond? So certainly there's a lot of people out there that are afraid of this shit, and they're trying to sort of either reverse age the process, which is like, yeah, Cap says, have you seen the reverse aging in mice by Harvard researchers? I saw a story several months back now, but it's insane. It is absolutely insane, and it's probable we can do this. At which point the question becomes, if you could live forever, even if let's assume our ability to determine we can live forever and make that a reality comes well in advance of our ability to determine if there is something after this life. At that point, I don't know. I don't know how long you'd hang in there. I mean, it would absolutely change everything. Yeah, there is video. That's right. That's right. K-Nub says, I would not want to live too long with my current brain. If there's a pill that lets me rest and forget, we'll talk about that too on the show. A pill that lets you forget and reset the bad thoughts and keep the good, then sign me up. We may have that in the next 10 to 20 years. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But all this stuff is really interesting. And it really, if you go back to cryogenics, the first cryogenic folks that got into operations with this, small freezing operations. I'm getting this, by the way, from bigthink.com if you're curious. Late 1960s. I want to tell you what happened to some of these people because I'm aware of like the Ted Williams, famous baseball player, got his head cut off. They froze his head. Hope's going to bring it back one day. That wasn't too long ago. There's a big lawsuit over it. It was like 10, 15, 20 years ago. This is 1960. You're talking now 40-something years ago where people got put into these things called D-War capsules. Okay, and this is how this runs. The biggest operation of this, by the way, back in the day was Chatsworth, California. Here's how it worked. You get into this, they put your body upside down because they want your head oriented downward to keep the brain coldest and most stable. They wrap you up in insulation and you get put into one of these DWAR capsules, which is like a thermos, but they fill it with liquid nitrogen. And every now and then you got to refill the liquid nitrogen. Okay, so he gets 4 people in there, crams their bodies, stuff their bodies in there. Let me tell you what's happened to some of these. This is something. A lot of it is, the family stopped paying, and so Nelson, the guy who ran this thing, he's like, I'm not putting the liquid nitrogen anymore. So the bodies just kind of thaw out in the capsules, and they're just festering in his vault right now. I don't even know what happened to those bodies, right? But the worst was reporters visited where these capsules were, and they said it just smelled horrible. And there was a body storage facility in New Jersey, and it didn't have good piping, right? So there were all these incidences, and the bodies, they put 4 bodies in one canister. Listen to this. This is just nightmare fuel. It sounds like the movie The Fly. The bodies in the container thawed out, but then they refroze them because they're like, hey, they're not ruined. We can still save this. But the bodies then froze again, and it says it stuck to the side of the capsule like a kid's tongue on a cold lamppost. Eventually, the bodies had to be entirely thawed to unstick, then refrozen and put back in. A year later, it failed again, and the bodies decomposed into a, quote, plug of fluids in the bottom of the capsule. The decision was made to finally thaw the entire contraption, scrape out the remains, and bury them. Okay? I want you to think about that. It's better now than it was back then. Listen to this, though. At one point, they only had one capsule that was working, and they had 4 people that had been frozen. So they literally had a capsule, and they've all thawed out and pasticized, where it says the arrangement of bodies in a single capsule where different orientations was described as a puzzle. After finding a physical arrangement that worked, the resealed capsule was lowered into an underground vault at the cemetery. Nelson, the guy who ran this, claimed to refill it sporadically until he stopped receiving money from the relatives. After a while, he just let the bodies do what they did, and the whole thing just still sitting there in their goddamn vault. I mean, think about that. So I'm not doing that. I don't have a desire to live forever, I don't think. But I've never been one of these guys that wants to freeze myself. The other thing that I don't quite understand, I've done some research on this, I don't understand it. It costs more. If you want to go today, the big, Apple computer of this is a company called Cryonics Institute. They have 200 bodies stored. Every year they get about 12 to 24 more. 10 years ago, if you wanted to freeze your whole body, it would cost you $80,000. But listen to this. I don't get this. Sorry, it would cost you 30 grand if you wanted to freeze the whole body. But if you wanted to freeze just the head, it would cost you $80,000. And I don't know why just saving the head would be harder, but again, I don't fucking know. I mean, I understand how taking a head, if this actually ever works, and who knows if it will, I understand that taking the head and reattaching it to a body is we're nowhere near that right now. Even though there's this scientist in China who's from Italy who says he has performed a head transplant, there's been no evidence of this. The only thing we know on that is what, in the 70s, some guy took a monkey's head and attached it to a dead monkey, and apparently it lived for about 9 days. They're talking to the scientists. Listen to this. The scientists say, look, even if we could do it, I mean, this is amazing. Even if we could do a head transplant, they say, it's like the chemical makeup being so different for the person and the physiological environment being so different for the brain in terms of all the new fluids coming in. It's like the person wouldn't live for more than a couple days. And in those days, he would most likely absolutely go batshit insane. Imagine, I mean, right? Because there's no, it's kind of like that whole thing, transfer your consciousness into a computer. There's no guarantee. You don't know what, it could just be darkness, infinite darkness, because your perception of time would shift. Your ability to perceive visual cues, even in your mind's eye, who the fuck knows? And you could just be screaming into a void going, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. I'm not a vegetable. And it's just, you're there. And I mean, a horror, fucking horror show, man. So this is not for me. And I'm certainly not dropping 80K on it. You can go fuck yourself, Cryonics Institute, you sons of bitches. Listen to this. Oh, man. No, I don't want to. You can read all the grim details. But the most recent time they've thawed out some bodies, this is 83. They had to lighten 3 containments. So basically what had happened is they had stored their whole bodies. For some reason, they had to limit the weight inside the container. I don't know why. Maybe they, who the fuck knows? So they pulled the corpses out, they cut the heads off with chainsaws, and they preserved the heads. But then they said, hey, we have a great opportunity. Let's examine these bodies that have been frozen for a couple of years now, and let's see what the let's see what the damage is. Listen to this. The worst was, on the outside, the guy looked pretty much fine. He looked great. But it said nearly every organ system inside the body was fractured. In one patient, every major blood vessel had broken near the heart. The lungs and spleen were almost bisected and the intestines fractured extensively. Only the liver and kidneys were not completely destroyed. The spinal cord was snapped into 3 pieces and the heart was fractured. The examiners injected dye into an artery in his arm. Rather than flow through the blood vessels into the muscles, most of it pooled under the surface in pockets and leaked out of holes in the skin. Come on! Now, I want to leave this story, but I want to leave it on some good news. I know you've seen this picture. If you haven't, I mean, this picture deserves to be hanging in fucking museums. It's an insane fucking goddamn picture. This is where the state of the art is. We're not cutting heads off and doing head transplants. We're not waking people up. We are doing face transplants. I know. Nick Cage, John Travolta, blah, blah, blah. We are doing face transplants. This is not the first face transplant, but this is a face transplant of a woman, 18 years old. And I don't know if you've seen the footage. You can find it on the internet. But it's such a neat moment when the doctor takes this person's face and attaches it. And at first he's like, you know, because they do like a multi-hour experiment. I'm kidding. This is from The Good Doctor. I'm kidding. It's not. This is real. They do a multi-hour experiment just to lift the face off of the person who has donated their face. Yeah. Who is this? Necro says that's one hell of an O face. That's right. And then they have a totally different surgical staff, except the main surgeon, in another room waiting for this face, right? And the doctor on the movie was saying, or the documentary was saying, he's like, look, you know, we're not out of the woods by any means, but I'm going to feel better if I can put this face on. And it starts to turn pink because that means at least we've got the blood pipes hooked up. Blood pipes. You're a fucking idiot, Jaffe. They're called arteries and veins. Fuck you. The point is, in the video, the face is there and it looks like a fucking corpse face, right? It's just all gray and ashen and shit. But suddenly you start seeing, this is real, this is from this transplant, you start seeing the face fill in all pink at the cheeks and everywhere else. And suddenly it's like, fuck, it's a real fucking face. And it worked. And then they still had many, many hours of surgery to actually, get everything attached and whatnot. And then the patient has to go through, many, many months of adjusting. But let me just say something to you real quick, and we all need to be careful. You think AI and deepfakes are a danger? No, my friends. Here's the danger. Take Joe Biden, right? Now, Joe Biden has a real problem. I mean, look, I'm not going to get political. I'm voting for Biden, but they're both too fucking old to run. It's ridiculous. These are our choices in this country, but it is what it is. But you could at one point go, you know what? Here's the president we really want. Joe Biden's too fucking old. He got elected. Let's take Joe Biden's face, put him on this guy's body, because this guy's the guy that we can manipulate and control. Come on now. You know what'll happen once this becomes as easy as getting a fucking stitch in the ER? Remember how much of a big deal heart transplants used to be? Now it's like, yeah, I got a heart transplant, then I'll be on the course at 3 p.m. I'll see you there, says the doc. Right? I mean, we're getting there. We need Robot Joe. I don't know. Am I muted? You're asking me if I'm muted? Do I fucking look muted? Yes, I got him. I don't know. I don't think so. Let me know. Jaffe says, Matt, do you also find it weird that so many people are uninterested by these kinds of topics and are happy to live their lives not thinking about what happens after death? I think a lot of people think about these topics. I think all of these topics are fascinating, and I think most people think they are. I think you've got certain kinds of people that are too, I don't mean to get all political again. I really don't. It's just we're in a political environment, but you got to be relatively privileged to take the time out instead of worrying about paying your bills, feeding your kids, getting a job, to sit around and talk about fucking head transplants and shit. But the other thing is, I think a lot of people are afraid. My personal theory on all this is that, there's more and more evidence that Neanderthal man and Homo sapien man interbred for many, many years. In fact, I saw a story today that said that they feel that some of the autistic traits that we see in people today is potentially brought about by that inbreeding, which ultimately led to the fall of the Neanderthals not Cro-Magnon, Homo sapiens that are us. But my personal theory is that we still have people all up and down that kind of evolutionary spectrum. We all identify and present as Homo sapien. But there are people, I think, that just are wired in a way where their brains are a bit more, not simple like they're unintelligent, but simple in terms of certain aspects of their brains may not be, where other people's brains are. Like there literally is something called, there's a part of the brain, the front part of the brain, the gray matter part right up here. Good, Jaffe, that's the front. Shut up. I will fucking burn you in your sleep. Where... they say that is where we have evolved to have a belief in something called God. Everybody has different ideas of what that is. But whether that's because a real God put it there or whether that's because we needed to survive and we needed to have this in order to advance, who's to say? But is it possible that there are some people that have either evolved out of that need or those are the dummies and the smart people have it? I'm not going to get into that on this show. But yeah, I mean, it's the idea that we're all throwing ourselves into one pot and saying, isn't it weird that some people aren't interested in this and some people are? I mean, there's a lot of fucking reasons why, I think. I'm part Neanderthal, 2% unknown, says Snoy. Yeah, I mean, you might be. You might be. Jaffe, were there many people with autism when you were young? Beats, I don't know. I mean, there were definitely there were definitely people when I was young in my school that here's what it was. 95% of the kids were, quote, normal. And then there were these kids that were like really smart and special, like 2%, and they got to go to all the fun classes. And I was like, what the fuck, right? And then there were the kids that were the special needs kids. But special needs kids today are not the special needs kids of my youth, right? These were guys and girls that had absolute severe, real challenges and real disabilities that no matter what kind of help they had, you know, they would always have some pretty big challenges based on the way our society is set up. Whereas today, there's tons of kids that are, you know, in, what do they call it? IED or something, and special needs and all that, which is just like, oh, they might be slower learning because they're more of a visual learner. So I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, right. K-Nub says my age special needs was wearing diapers, drooling, and shouting loudly. Right. I mean, that's what it was. That's what it was. All right. Well, let's move on, shall we, with our goddamn... Hey, everyone. Where are you going, Jaffe? I'm moving on with my life. I invite you to join me. Okay. Where are we at? Where are we at, boys? Oh, I know. I got to tell you this. This is the stuff. I have not gotten to the Harvard aliens yet. I will in a second, Twisted. This is the stuff that... You know, I read a story years ago, and it has never left my fucking brain pan, which is speculative science regarding pills and medicine and all this shit. And I read one story about a possibility of a drug that would, and I'm not going to get into this drug, but I just want to tell you why it interests me. And it was about the possibility of incarcerating people in the future, and that you could actually slow down their perception of time. So you could give a prisoner who has like a 20-year sentence a pill, and that person's serving would only last a day, but their perception of time, I mean, it would be incredibly cruel. It would certainly not fly, at least in our current version of what America is, or at least not legally. But that person's perception would be 20 years, right? I mean, I assume it would be a nightmare, right? And there's actually now starting to become more science to really back this shit up. There is a malady called tachysensia. I'm probably saying it wrong. Tachysensia. One of the difficulties with it, it says it's hard for people who experience it to accurately describe it. But here's an official, you know, Johnny Four Eyes wearing a lab coat and glasses. Here's what he says. He says, what it is, fellas, is a distortion of time and sound. It is reported to consist of time moving fast or slower than what most people perceive, or a combination in which a person may feel like they are moving in slow motion, but everything around them is going in fast motion. Sounds can also be altered, where they can be amplification of sounds in which everything appears very loud or muffled. Okay, so this is a real neurological condition. A lot of people tend to have it when they are teenagers and they grow out of it, but maybe it is tied to a stroke. Maybe it's tied to a seizure. Most people say the experience lasts 5 to 10 minutes, and they have about 2 to 12 of these over a year before it kind of peters out of their experience, right? Well, so it's easy to imagine going, oh, we understand how the brain works. Now we can make a pill to stop this, or we can make a pill to amplify this. So I want to just tell you really quickly, because I just find this batshit delightfully cool. Here are a handful of drugs that are not guaranteed, but they are very possible that they could be delivered and developed in the next 10 to 20 years. Okay. Here we go. Mind reading drugs. I'm not going to read you the whole descriptor, but you get the gist, and I'll link it if you want. Mind reading drugs. Advances in pharmacology could lead to drugs that enhance or enable mind reading capabilities. These could involve compounds that increase brain-to-brain communication, allowing for a rudimentary form of telepathy. Dream control pills, medications that allow users to control their dreams or induce lucid dreaming. They can manipulate the brain's REM state, cycles, and neurotransmitter activity to provide immersive and controllable dream experiences. Come on now. Emotional sharing drugs, compounds that allow individuals to share emotions and experiences. By syncing neurotransmitter activity between two or more people, these drugs can enable a profound form of empathy and connection, but could also blur the boundaries of individual emotional experiences. Come on now. Synthetic love drugs, you goddamn right. Drugs specifically designed to induce feelings of love or deep emotional bonding. This must be what Phil Spencer puts in the water of Xbox fans. They could manipulate oxytocin and other related neurotransmitters to create strong emotional connections, raising questions about authenticity and the nature of relationships. Hyperintelligence enhancers, we know what that is. Go watch the movie. What's that movie with Bradley Cooper? What's that goddamn movie called? It's awesome. Reality perception modulators, drugs that alter how you perceive reality. Enhanced sensory perception drugs, pain elimination. Now, this is the one that somebody earlier was talking about living forever. Memory eraser and implantation drugs, compounds that allow for selective erasure of unwanted memories or the implantation of new fabricated memories. Recall, a sunset on Mars, that's new. This could be used to treat PTSD or other trauma-related conditions, but raises profound ethical questions about identity and consent. And then obviously, like we were talking about, biological age reversing drugs. Kyle says this just seems like a Cold War CIA dream list. Well, again, these drugs aren't on the shelf right now. But this is kind of like, if you ever saw the movie Minority Report, which I'm sure you did. It's a great fucking movie. But Spielberg, when he made that movie, went out to like some of the top futurists, real job, and said, look, I want to make sure that this future we're building, I forget how many years in the future it was, like 60 years from, I believe, holds up within possibility, within reason. And so obviously, who knows if we're going to get the roadways like in that movie, but there's stuff that's already happened that you saw in that movie. Things like just personally targeted advertisements and shit. So I think it's pretty fucking cool. And I don't know if we're going to get all of these, but I mean, just look, I went to a place, maybe you've heard of it if you're in California, called Old Town, and it's kind of like an old cowboy street, and a lot of the Mexican influence of when California was Mexico, but they kind of have part of the street made up like it was back in, I don't know, 1820 or whatever. And what's fascinating is you go past a dental office. And the dentist office has a chair in there, and it shows you some of the tools that they use to work on patients' teeth. And what's amazing about it is it's so archaic. You might as well be looking at a torture chamber, right? And so when you think about, what is it? So let's just say 1800. So you're talking 200 years ago, 224 years ago. Look how far we've come. The idea that you could, transplant a heart, insane. A lung, insane. So maybe it's not 20 years, but imagine the medicine we'll have in 100 fucking years, man. Think about that. Think about that nonsense. That's amazing. That's amazing. What does Jaffe is bending? What? I don't know. I can't read that. I could. I just don't understand it. Okay. Let me get some of these real quick. We got, we got Duke. Thank you, buddy. Duke's been a member, but he's a member again. Thank you for being a YouTube member. Unfortunately, I don't have a list right here of what, fuck it. I can tell what kind of member you are. Hang on. Let me go over here and see if it's still up there. There we go. Oh my God, you son of a bitch. You've spent a lot of ducats. You have joined the Gods of War. I'm sorry I didn't get to that sooner. It doesn't tell me here. I have to go look by hand, but it's worth it. The journey was worth it. Thank you, buddy, for joining the goddamn Gods of War. I may have to refund your money because a lot of those perks are no longer valid, but we can talk about that offline. A lot of them are. Well, some of them are. It's really kind of shitty. YouTube doesn't let you make any changes. Point is, thank you for the generosity. We'll make it work for you, but thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay. Let us move forward. But thank you for that, man. That's very generous, bud. Okay. I want to tell you a story. about, so listen, my dad died in his home, okay? They knew he was going, and he hospiced at the house or at the apartment where they lived, okay? And so at some point, somebody had to come take his body away. And I wasn't there. I'd come back to California. He died a few days after I got back. But, you know, there is a service that does this, right? It's there's a place called, where did this was in somewhere in America. I'm not sure what state it was. Nebraska. Listen to this. This guy who works for a company called Mid-America First Call. What they do is removal, transportation, embalming, cremations, and ship outs of dead bodies, okay? So they go into this deceased guy's house, apartment, and near the dead body, there was, quote, a very real-life size version of an adult female. It was a sex doll. It was a sex doll, okay? And the people who were in there, like the hospice nurses and stuff, were like, hey, both the guys that came to collect the body were making jokes about it and commenting on it. So they saw it. They knew it was there. Later in the day, one of the guys, I'll show you what he looks like. Not that it should matter, but fuck it, I'll look shame him. There he is right there. Look at him. Look at that. You know he's going to do something nasty, folks. Later in the day, this guy goes to the apartment complex, says, hey, I got to get back inside. I have this body bag. The cops want me to pick up the doll for some kind of evidence. And there's also a stretcher that we left behind. Okay. Eventually, they kind of caught on because they saw him coming out of the apartment. His shirt was untucked and his pants were in disarray. He had gone back and fucked the doll, folks. And now he's under arrest. He unlawfully entered the apartment with a body bag, which is evidence that he had the intent to take the doll, said the judge. Therefore, the court finds him a substantial step in course to conduct intended to culminate in commission of burglary. Actually, he's free on bond right now, but nobody knows where it's going to go. I'm not going to shame anybody for fucking a sex doll. I've never done it. I'd fuck a robot. Probably wouldn't fuck a sex doll because I couldn't get out of my head that I'm fucking a corpse. But here's a guy. I mean, think about that. Think about that. This is a guy that's around the dead bodies all day long. He probably's fucking the dead bodies too. Because, I mean, again, maybe somebody in the chat can call in or tell me in the chat if they fucked a sex doll before, and there's fucking brothels in places you can go and fuck sex dolls. So people are into it. I got nothing against it. But to me, it would be like you're fucking a dead thing. And if he's okay doing it with the doll, he's probably okay doing it with the goddamn bodies. Who knows how many fucking bodies of, who the fuck knows? But anyway, the point is, imagine this. No, you couldn't imagine that. It's not possible. I was going to say, he fucked somebody, the woman's dead, but not quite dead, and the baby takes hold. Baby somehow miraculously lives for 9 months, comes to term in the coffin. Come on now. Point being, though, is, yeah, they threw him in jail, or they arrested him, and they're trying to throw him in jail. We'll see what happens. But he was fucking the doll, and he wanted to take it with him. I guess it was a good... don't say, what the fuck, Jaffe. It's not me who did it. Yeah, Fonzie says, why would I spend all that money on a sex doll when the supermarket has perfectly good hams I can warm up whenever I want? All I'm telling you, sir, is if you read the book or the comic Preacher, you'll see a couple of big moments of that. It's pretty amazing. Okay, let's move forward, though. Let's talk about Harvard for a minute. I'm actually kind of disappointed in the Harvard thing. You may have heard about this. You may have heard about this because you probably have heard about this because it's made all the news. But the news was really poorly, it's the news. I love journalists, but corporate news is all, it doesn't matter. Point is, who knows what you can trust. But if you looked at the headlines, these were headlines that were like, hey, Harvard says there are aliens here. Harvard says that there are aliens that are living under the ocean and in volcanoes and this and that and that. And so, of course, I'm super excited. I want to know what's going on. So it's a peer review report from Harvard. It says it argues scientific community should be open to the possibilities presented by UAPs. The researchers explored what's called crypto-terrestrial hypothesis, a subset of a theory that UAP sightings may be activities of non-human intelligence. It says UAPs, this is from the report, UAPs may reflect activities of intelligent beings concealed in stealth here on Earth, maybe underground, near environments like dark side of the moon, or even walking among us. Fundamentally, UAPs constitute an extraordinary empirical mystery which science is surely obligated to investigate, but has rarely done so, at least in an open, public, visible way, the report adds. It also starts to talk about maybe these are time travelers, interdimensional beings. It literally mentions aliens. And so what I find interesting about this, though, is when you actually listen to interviews of the people who did this report, and I don't even understand their explanation. I don't really understand the explanation here, because they say, well, it's a thought experiment. It's a thought experiment for science, for the government, for people, to expand scientific inquiry, to stimulate public interest, to promote open-mindedness, and address unexplained phenomena. So when you actually pin them down and say, wait, so are you saying this is not, you don't have evidence of this? They're like, no, it's just a thought experiment. And it's like, okay, if you're a kid who's in 5th grade and you're like, whoa, that's cool, I get the value of that, stimulating public interest, but I don't know who to blame, the fucking study or the goddamn news media that went off with these headlines like science. I mean, look, literally, here's a headline for it. Aliens could be walking among us. And this is one of the more benign ones, Harvard researchers say. If I just type Harvard paper study aliens, UAP, UFO, let's just look at the headlines. Aliens may already live on Earth. Hidden UFO civilization could be on Earth, Harvard says. Fox says Harvard study claiming aliens could be on Earth disguised as humans. Aliens might be living here. I mean, it's just like secret UFO civilization. Aliens could be here on Earth already. I mean, just like, it's so annoying. It's so annoying to me. Because, you know, I believe some of this stuff is real. I believe a lot of this stuff may be real, but I'm sorry. But, you know, when you put stuff out like this and then you do the research and it ends up being, oh, no, it's not that. It's a thought experiment. It pisses me off. Byte says journalism is dead. I think some of it is. Some of it for sure. Where did that go? Did I see the poor kid who took part in a nude pride parade? We're living in a messed up... No, why would I... No. Okay. Oh yeah, wasn't there an old Roddy Piper movie like that where, yeah, it's called They Live, where he only saw aliens when he wore glasses. Were they aliens in that movie? Was it John Carter? I know they were the bad guys, but I don't remember exactly what they were or what the point was. But anyway, we're gonna do a remote viewing experience right now. Okay, experiment right now. We'll set a timer in a second. I'll let you know when we're going to start. But, okay, hang on. There's nothing that anybody could do that would confirm to me that they are also human. And yeah, I mean, I you know, what I think is, I absolutely think there's interesting shit going down. And I think I may actually live long enough to understand it way more than anybody younger who's already died would understand it. I think we're going to get answers sooner than later, because it's just, something's weird, man. Something's weird, man. It's just there's too much shit being reported on. And again, people have talked about this before. People have talked about, well, it's, you know, it's a psyop. I used to think it was a psyop, but I used to think it was a psyop to distract us from something else. But when you look at how uninterested most people are in this stuff, you know, I remember there was a time in the 90s. I remember, like it was yesterday, I was flying out to Utah to work on one of the Twisted Metal games. And on one of the TVs by the metal detectors or the security, whatever it was back then. It certainly wasn't like it is today. Bill Clinton was on, the president, and he was talking about a meteorite that we had found that people thought might actually contain microbial life from outer space. And that footage was actually used in the movie Contact, out different contexts. But I mean, you know, and it was big news and everybody was talking about it. And now jump cut to a couple years ago and you're looking at the New York Times and you're seeing a fucking UAP/UFO on the cover. Nobody fucking cares. So if it is a psyop, it's not working. It's working on people like me, but hey, I'm a sure thing. I'm already interested in this shit. I just assumed, says Zen, that it was being kept secret because the government wanted to steal their tech and claim it as their own. I mean, that is one of the very big claims that people make, that and that the guy, one of the guys in Congress that's looking into this is like, he's like, look, I'm less worried about aliens and more worried about the fact that, you know, our tax dollars are being spent on these contractors that don't have any kind of oversight and they can do whatever the fuck they want and make this technology and make shit tons of money off it. So yeah, it's possible. It wouldn't surprise me. Okay. So we're going to do the remote viewing experiment. It's going to be 5 minutes. If you're not into this, here's what I'm going to do. If you're listening to this after the fact, I'll edit this part out. So I'll leave in when we start. And then if you want to pause the podcast or whatever and do it yourself and then come back, cool. But if you're watching live, there is going to be a 5-minute thing where I'm just staring at this fucking thing. Okay. So here's what it's going to be. Okay. I mean, there's a lot of people. I don't know if I believe in this and I don't know if I'm the right guy to do it, but you're more of the one that needs to have the talent, not really me. I'm just going to be looking at this thing off camera. You don't know what it is. I would advise you not to think about, if you watch this show or watch this channel a lot, I would advise you not to think about, oh yeah, Jaffe, he showed me this cool pencil, and it's nothing I've ever shown. It's not like, try to bring nothing to the table other than just what comes to mind. Some people will tell you, oh, like somebody said, you have to do coordinates or random numbers. Look, I refuse to believe. I'm going off a list on ChatGPT going, look, tell me how to do a remote viewing experience with a stream. I refuse to believe that it is so scientific that it only works if I give you a random number or a quarter. You can either see what I'm thinking or you can't. I don't know what to believe. I'm agnostic, but here we go. I'm going to think long and hard about it. I'm going to look like an idiot. I'm just going to be staring for 5 minutes. Here's how we're going to do it. I don't care what you type in the chat. I don't care what you call. I'm not going to answer any calls. If you want to call in again, the number's up top. But the minute I'm done and I tell the timer, I shut the timer off, then I will look to the chat and I'll see. I'll see if anybody gets it. We'll see what happens. All right, here we go. You can draw it. You can describe it, but All right, I'm looking at it. Alexa, set timer for 5 minutes and 4 seconds. 4 seconds so I can turn my head. And
5 minutes and 40 seconds, starting now.
Go. Alexa, stop. Okay. There we go. Okay. I'm not gone. I'm not in a K-hole, you idiots. I'm here. Okay. So, welcome back. I did an edit if you're watching this after the fact, so I'm about to reveal it. Go to the chat, see what they came up with. But now you can restart the show. All right. So, first of all, like I said, this is that the one? I would love for someone to call in first, though, to talk about what they saw or think they saw. There's the link, okay? But let me see in the chat. You guys tell me. Just describe anyone who actually did this experiment in good faith. I will read it. Dude, I didn't ban anything. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm doing this right now. Call me later. I don't want to talk about shit like that. But I'm happy to talk to you about it on the Discord. Send me a DM or on Twitter. Zeke says it's a book. A Lady in Flowers. Funko Pop. Model figure, later Rubik's Cube. That's all you guys got? No one came with anything else? All right. Well, maybe I just won't tell you that no one has even come close. So if you saw something in your mind, a silver dollar, no. Taylor Swift, no. Porno, no. Woody the Woodpecker doll, no. Bag of dicks, no. Yeah. No, not a figurine. All right, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to save the response until the next stream next week, because I want to give people a chance to watch it later and guess in the comments. But I will tell you right now, no, it's on a dog toy. It's on a nail clipper. It's definitely not a PSVR 2. VCR instructions, no. I want maybe somebody out there will get it. Well, I don't mean to make you wait. I'm just saying that, none of you guys got it. So trust me, no one's got it. So if I just tell you, what value is that? All I can tell you right now is either it doesn't work at all, which wouldn't surprise me, or it works great, but you guys haven't gotten it yet. But somebody else out there will. But yes, it's an object. It's an object. Absolutely. Okay. It's not an apple. No. Okay, let's move forward. Listen to this now. Listen to this. Okay, I'll tell you what. Here's what I'll do. No, because if I tell you what it is and then edit it out, people will still ruin it for other people in the comments. So sorry, I'll wait. Okay. This woman is walking around. Now, this woman's walking around. She is, how old's this lady? 19. Irish lass. Okay. And suddenly she feels horrible in her stomach. Extreme stomach pain. She goes to the ER with her boyfriend and says, what the fuck is going on? And they say, we have to remove your appendix because it's about to burst. And she says, well, why? What the fuck? And do you know what it was? This is a woman who had been with her boyfriend for 2 years. And every time she was around her boyfriend, she had never gotten comfortable enough to fart with this guy. And so I guess she spent a lot of time with him and said she held it in. And she held it in so much, so frequently, that it ultimately sent her to the hospital. And they said, we have to take out your fucking appendix. She says, I do hold in my farts, but I didn't think I would be in the hospital for it. I'm pretty easygoing other than burps and farts. I was in so much pain I couldn't hold in my tears. My doctor said, I'm so sorry. But we're going to have to remove this organ here. My boyfriend just thought it was fucking funny, she said. And then listen to this. Other people chimed in on this story on the internet, and they said, one woman wrote in and said, 5 years together, and my man has never heard me fart. Another woman said, I would never make that sacrifice for a man. Listen to this one. One woman said, I've held them in all my life around everyone. None of my friends and family have witnessed me letting one rip since I was a baby, is what they said. Now listen to this. Oh yeah, gases find a way out. You can actually fart. You can be so constipated that you will vomit feces. That's true. Absolute true fact. Zen says, I'm divorced. I do regret how quickly my ex and I started farting in front of each other. I think it was part of our problem. I mean, I think it was a symptom of your problem. I don't think because it's the whole thing about peeing in front of your spouse, your significant other, and all that stuff. There is a point where, I mean, look, the immediate sexual chemistry is going to die anyway in a couple of years. That's just chemical. But if you're one of these people that are like, let's keep the romance alive, it's probably not a bad idea, to sort of not let it all hang out all the time. But I think this is a case of way too goddamn cockadoodie extreme is what I would say. Yeah, you can vomit feces. Look it up. I would remember the stores they used to have at the mall, the Discover stores or the Discovery stores. I was in there and we were looking at like just random books, and one was just about weird things the body does. And it was like, here's a guy who vomited feces. It's like, why the fuck would he vomit feces? And it's like, well, he was so constipated that the only place it could come out was that way. And it literally came out as he threw it up. It came out of his mouth. Can you imagine? Could you imagine? Don't tell me there's no way you could vomit. Would you like me to give you the story briefly? Don't tell me I'm lying to you. Can you vomit up poop? Okay. Yes, it is possible to vomit up fecal matter, also known as fecal vomiting. This usually happens when the intestines are obstructed, preventing intestinal contents from moving normally. In an attempt to relieve pressure, the intestinal muscles contract and push the contents backward through the pyloric sphincter and into the stomach, where it is then vomited. Now, I can't show you this on the YouTube, but there's a big part of me that says, I want to look this up real quick on YouTube. You can just enjoy my expression. Fecal vomiting. Here we go. I'm terrified. Whoo! Whoo! Here we go. Here we go. Oh! Whoo! 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 Yeah, we're done with that. You can do it. You can do it. K-Nub says, I'd be disappointed if you didn't look it up. You goddamn right. How you not? I'm not sharing that. You go fucking look it up yourself on your own goddamn computer. I don't want to have my channel removed. Holy cow. There's a video you can look up that's more PG, though, that says, how long can you hold your poop before you explode? And that's kind of all cartoony. But woman vomits her own feces. The doctor discusses an alarming x-ray of a woman's chest. She underwent surgery, and she's struggling to breathe, and she basically threw up her fucking, there you go. All right. Don't I want sponsors? I do want sponsors for these shows, but I want sponsors that are like, Jaffe, we're vibing with you, baby. We get what you're about. We like the cut of your jib, motherfucker. If I have to become, no. Jaffe, would you see? I'm going to read this comment right here. But This will kill all my sponsors. Jaffe, would you suck a fart out of a woman's butt for $1 million? I mean, yeah, sure. Because what's the look for $1 million? Yeah. But you know, a lot of these guys today, younger generations, are always going on about, oh, I love to eat ass. I'm sorry to be vulgar. No, I'm not. And I'm just like, it's not my thing because you know, it's gross to me. I'm not gonna unless I'm really drunk. So if you're gonna do that, you may as well fucking do it for $1 million. Basically the same goddamn thing. Yeah, they have enemas. Yeah, whatever. It's not about being a coward, George Bush, you son of a bitch. I'm more than willing to say I don't have the stones. Jacob says no one's sponsoring this. I know. I don't have the stones to put my mouth into a lady's tushy hole and go to town. Now, she probably would enjoy it so much. Then it's like, well, okay. But no. I like how I like how Mark Arnold is telling me I'm wrong about the fecal vomiting. Look it up. It's a story. He says no one's sphincter muscles are strong enough to ever let a poop escape under pressure. It's a real thing. Go look it up. Yeah, $6 says not wanting to eat shit is smart. You goddamn right. I've never had kidney stones. No, thank God. Kidneys. I hear they're awful. Okay, I'm moving on. Let's look at this. Remember at the opening of the show, we were talking about this picture, right? Right here. Here you go. Let me show it to you guys. This picture. What it is it's real. Here's the story behind that little scribble. If you haven't heard it, it's kind of fascinating. I wonder about things like this. Basically, February 2018, a woman named Tina Hines, she collapsed in her house in Arizona. Resuscitated her. Her husband did CPR, resuscitated her, went to the ambulance. They resuscitated her. She was clinically dead for 27 minutes. They revived her finally at the hospital. She wakes up, and immediately, she can't even talk. She just reaches for a pen and a notepad of paper, and this is what she wrote down. It's real. She explained her message related to her near-death experience and sighting of Jesus the Christ in heaven, her vision having vibrant colors. According to the University of Virginia, near-death experiences are intensely vivid and often life-transforming experiences, many of which occur under extreme psychological conditions such as trauma, ceasing of brain activity, deep general anesthesia, or cardiac arrest, in which no awareness or sensory experience of any kind should be possible. But alas, it seems to be. So, you know, I don't know, man. See, here's what I'll tell you about this, this near-death experience stuff. I understand that there are grifters, and I also understand that people are on drugs. No, see, this is what I'm saying. I'm sorry, I can't go with that $6. $6 says it's a dump of hormones and a biased opinion. This is where I can't. This is where we have to part ways on that. I got you, Mr. K. I'm not saying I believe that this shit is real, but there has been we've talked about it about 6 episodes ago. There's been science recently of everything from consciousness and microtubules and the brain being a quantum receptor for consciousness. There has been a study done in America with cardiac doctors who got permission to study the brain of patients that were having cardiac arrest. And they would come back and they would say, I saw things that were able to come back, of course. Died didn't. But there was no brain activity at all. So I'm not saying that means anything. I am a very, like, if you could put my brain in a machine and look at how agnostic I am, I don't have a dog in the fight. My only dog in the fight is knowledge. I think it's interesting. I think it's fascinating. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to buy it hook, line, and sinker. And I always thought the same thing. I always thought, oh, well, you're on morphine, or, the pituitary gland is releasing DMT in the brain, blah, blah, blah. And maybe all these things are true. And I see people in the chat. One guy says, my wife died and was dead for 17 minutes and they brought her back. And she didn't see anything. Right. And, a number of people have said that. I died, I came back, and it was just black. It was dark. It wasn't even that. It just wasn't, I didn't exist. So maybe. I mean, look, I'll tell you something else. I mean, I used to think that the brain just ceased activity when you had anesthesia. It turns out that's not even true. That's what I thought happened when you died. The first time I went under anesthesia, I was like, first time I went under anesthesia. Well, that's a different story. Remote viewing time. Look, I don't know. I have no idea. Isn't it possible that it's a generator of consciousness that contributes to a larger body network membrane of consciousness, like the internet? Yeah, absolutely. I am not going to, all I do is I read the stories. I read the stories from, the fringe, but I also read them. I mean, look, check this out. I'll put it on the screen for you. We're not going to get into this as a big topic, but I just want to show you what I'm talking about in terms of the process, right? So near death, experiment, cardiologist. Okay. All right. Dr. Michael Sabom is a retired cardiologist, studied near-death experiences since the 70s. Cardiologist says near-death experiences. One guy says it's not the afterlife. So listen to what this guy says. This says, this cardiologist says, I was doing my medical research during the 70s. Social worker challenged me to investigate rather than brush off near-death experiences. One case changed my belief system, he said. A patient named Pam Reynolds changed everything. Pam had a very complex, dangerous aneurysm that was about to burst. Because of her position of the aneurysm, most doctors wouldn't operate, but we found one doctor who's like, fuck it, I'm drunk anyway. But before the operation, Pam was in a medically induced near-death state. Her heart and brain weren't functioning. Her temperature was reduced to 65 degrees. All the blood was drained from her head, and her ears and eyes were blocked. Despite that, Pam heard and saw everything during the operation. She later said, I puffed up out the top of my head. When I interviewed Pam about the experience afterwards, she described the bone saw the doctor used looking like an electric toothbrush. That seemed absurd, but when I requested a picture of the tools the doctor used, I saw she was right. But wait a minute. Okay, he says, I don't think NDEs are proof of an afterlife. He says, sometimes people point to NDEs as proof of the afterlife. I believe there's a heaven, says this guy, but it has nothing to do with this research. There's a difference between the true afterlife and these experiences of being nearly dead. NDEs still happen in the life that we live day to day, but they connect us to a spiritual realm that we're not normally in touch in. There's a growing acceptance of NDEs, but they're still hard for many people to acknowledge. Our scientific and medical training is based on material proof. So again, I think that's the right attitude to have, right? It's just like, I mean, maybe it's just all chemicals. Here's what I think it is. I think it is a lot of people, they like to poke at people who have an open mind. I think it's some kind of way to mask their own insecurities. Look, I think it's all probably batshit crazy, but I don't know, and you don't know, and shit that was batshit crazy 100 years ago, we're doing now. I mean, I literally have a fucking ability to talk to you guys all over the world in real time for the most part. Couldn't do that 100 years ago. People say you got rocks in your head. I don't agree with that. Just incredible, but I appreciate that you do. As long as it brings you comfort and you don't use your religion to be cruel to other people, which I have no reason to believe you do. That's great. Go with God. He says, Jaffe, it's the Holy Spirit. God is physical law and beyond. Cool. Listen, I had a dream last night. I know what religious people will say about it. Religious people will say, see, that's God. I had a dream last night and I'm not going to bore you with my dreams. Let's just put it this way. I was raised Jewish. I haven't been Jewish since I was 7 years old. I rejected all religion, not violently. I was just like, this isn't for me. But I go back to the temple that I was brought up in, Sunday school, and I had a bar mitzvah. And I go into the main chapel for some reason, and the seats or the pews or whatever they are could recline like a lazy boy. And I lay back and I look up at the ceiling, and there's just like a big star, and it's sort of very magical and colorful and glowing. And it was very clear to me that I had a connection with God looking at that star. Okay? Now, I don't know what that is. Does that mean God was reaching out to me? But then I woke up and I says to the God, I says in my head, I'm actually on the toilet when I said this. I was thinking out loud. I'm not fucking with you. I says this to him. I says, look, I'm done with this shit. I'm done with it. I'm like, look, if you are real, then fucking be real. And if you can't be real, then either you don't have the ability to be real or express it, in which case, okay, well, maybe I'll see you one day. Maybe I won't, because you're not real, maybe. I don't know. But enough of this bullshit that people come out, oh, see, you have to have faith. No. If God's real, he would know that that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. So, sorry. I'm not going to just have faith. You got to show me something. And that's it. That's fine, Twisted Sith. God doesn't answer to me. I don't give a shit. I don't need him to answer to me. I'm saying, don't send me shit like that if it's real and act like I got to do the heavy lifting. I'm sorry. My brain is my brain. If God's real, which I don't, certainly not the God in the Bible or the Torah is real, then I'm sorry, you made me. You figure out why it's not working. Right. K-Nub says, show me a reason like in voting to vote for you. Don't just do it blindly. Jaffe gives God's ultimatums. It's not an ultimatum. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Doesn't matter to me. I mean, it would be nice to believe in certain things, but I would hate to believe in an actual God that's in the Bible, the Torah, the Quran. Sounds like a terrible human or person to deal with. A DNA test will say you're Jewish, so you're supposed to say, I'm Jewish but not religious, but you're too fucking ashamed. There's nothing ashamed about being Jewish. The reason I don't say I'm Jewish, Mr. K, is because to me what that implies is there's a whole religion around that. There's a belief system. There is you open the door for Elijah at Passover. You do Dayenu. It seems disrespectful to Jews, and it also is simply inaccurate. Do I have half of my DNA from Eastern European Jews? You goddamn right I do. Am I more culturally Jewish than anything in terms of the way I carry myself and the way I look? Most likely. And I got no problems with any of that. But I'm not Jewish in the sense that I don't practice that religion. I don't know why that's hard for, it's always hard for Jews to buy that. It's almost like you don't want to lose anybody from the team. And it's just like, I don't care. Yeah, you can call in. Absolutely. The link is up there if you're on YouTube. It's at the very top of the YouTube posted on there. Jewish is a nationality as well as a religion. Okay, Gravedigger, then don't you think it needs a different name? So if you're basically saying, religiously, I'm not Jewish at all. Was I raised Jewish so I know stuff about it? Sure. Do I have part of my family that comes from Lithuania and they were all Jews over there? This part of the family, not everybody in Lithuania, sure. So I can, whatever that needs to be for you, I'm more than happy to let it be that for you. Listen to this, though. Here's something we can all agree on. This is batshit crazy. Do you know, if you're like, you know what, I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to watch what I eat. Do you know the strangest thing I learned today that you should avoid if you don't want to put on 1,000 calories by doing something that you would never think would give you 1,000 calories? Listen to this. There was a bride. She's getting married. She's sending out her invitations. She says, I accidentally consumed 1,000 calories by licking envelopes for my wedding invitations. I want you to understand something. This is bad shit. Do you know that there is a caloric value to licking stamps? In America, it's less fattening to lick stamps and envelopes. But in the UK, where she's from, a British stamp, the caloric value of the glue on the British stamp can reportedly contain between 6 and 15 calories. In America, it's much lower. It's like 4 calories per stamp. But so, you know, if you're out there, yeah, Zeke says, I've always said emails save lives. That's right. Get diet envelopes, says Hardboy. Right. I mean, I'm just saying it's, you know, it's a thing. So if you're really out there counting those calories, I was telling somebody the other day, I was talking to a buddy of mine who's works on streams and stuff. And we were talking about the movie Roadhouse, the new one, the remake with what's his face, Gyllenhaal. And I said to him, I said, you know, I don't know if you've seen the movie, but there's a point in the movie where Gyllenhaal is like having these nightmares about his MMA career, his character's MMA career. And he's like just wearing boxer shorts and he's writhing around in his bed like, oh no, it's so, you know, whatever. And his body in these shots is like, it's almost like you're looking at a muscled version of Slim Goodbody, if you know who that is. The point is you can see under his shoulders, like the sinew. I mean, it looks like you're looking at almost like one of those come to life statues at like the Living Bodies where people donated their skin and their organs and stuff to be put on display. It was almost like there was zero fat on this person. And I bring it up because I know people in real life who live that way, who have those kinds of bodies. But my God, every day, every single fucking day is a battle. It's calorie counting and protein counting, down to the teeny tiny little fucking gram. And so I'm just saying that if you're Jake Gyllenhaal prepping for the Roadhouse and suddenly you got to lick some stamps, it could fuck your whole day up. It could absolutely fuck you up, man. But it's a good movie, though. It's a good movie. Wouldn't you need to fully absorb all the glue off the envelope? I don't buy it. She would have had to leave her tongue on the envelope for a while. I don't know. I'm reading you the news, boys. I'm getting it from the New York Post. I don't think she would come onto the New York Post and lie to you. Traditionally, it says brides often become calorie conscious ahead of their big days. Now, you can tell the reporter, we can call him right now if I can find his name. And Asia Grace, view author archive. Let's go to see who Asia Grace is. Asia Grace wrote it. I don't think she has a Twitter account. If she did, I'd call her up and write her up and say, hey, now, what's happening with the stamps? But I don't have that data for you. The envelopes I get from the post office to send rent checks, says Nubs, have adhesive, no tongue needed. Well, I think she was licking the stamp. I don't fucking know. I'm reading you the story. Come on now. Thank you, Prince Green. Well, Prince Green says, Jaffe, you're looking healthy. Glad you lost some weight. Well, again, I feel better. I'm still on the journey. But again, I'm not one of these guys who's like, well, just eat healthier. Nope. I pop the Ozempic once a week. That's what I needed to do. And so far it's working. It's slowed down, but it's still dropping off and it feels better. Now, fuck you, Bite. Fuck you, Bite. Bite says, eat less calories, you'll lose weight. Yeah, I know. Really? I understand, but some of us, it's not that fucking easy or possible. So shut up. But I hear you, Bite. You're not wrong about your math. Okay. Listen to this. Who do you think? There are 5... let me put it this way. put it this way. There are 5 traits that psychologists have put together. Big personality traits. 1970s, they decided this. They came up with this. I'll tell you what they are first, and I'll tell you why I'm telling you this. Neuroticism. People with high scores are characterized by anxiety, inhibition, moodiness, and lower self-assurance. Extroversion, cheerfulness. Openness, fond of innovation and displays of creativity. Agreeableness dictates how they interact with others, and conscientiousness gauges a person's level of organization. Individuals with high scores on this are motivated, disciplined, trustworthy. Okay. So, and that's got nothing to do with the main story, but what I'm trying to help you out with here is understanding that this has been going around since the 70s going. These are kind of the main personality traits of the human beings, okay? Okay. Now, can you guess the makeup of traits that science has recently come out, as recently as this week? This is from June 14th, and said, study finds UFO witnesses may have personality traits that increase the likelihood of sightings. Right? I want you to think about that. According to findings in a recent study, UFO witnesses may not be prone to misperceptions or related cognitive factors, but instead may possess specific personality traits that increase their likelihood of encountering such phenomenon. This is coming from the debrief. Clinical psychologist Dr. Danny Stubbings. His actual name in the article is Daniel Stubbings, but I have a feeling we'd be pals and he'd let me call him Danny. His team and him found there are numerous factors that contribute to an individual thinking they witness what the U.S. Department of Defense now calls a UAP. Okay? You have seen, Otzel says you've seen UFOs. I've never seen them. Never seen ghosts. Love to see them, but haven't. This was just published in the Journal of Scientific Exploration. It examines the big 5 personality traits that we just talked about. To help determine if UAP experiencers could be distinguished from those who have not reported seeing a UAP. Here's what they found. Out of their 206 participants, including 103, so half, who said that they had witnessed or self-reported seeing a UAP, there were 3 groups. Group 1 had average traits, whereas the second group was high on neuroticism and schizotopy traits, which are basically traits associated with some form or various vibes of schizophrenia. It doesn't mean they have schizophrenia, but they're in that world tangentially. They're schizophrenia adjacent. I don't fucking know. The last control group was found to have high openness, agreeableness, conscientiousness, and extroversion, but low neuroticism and schizopy, whatever. Okay. Here's what they found. The third group was more likely to see UAPs. Over the years, stigma and stereotypes have helped create narratives that people who see UAPs are more than likely emotionally reactive. In other words, they may display neurotic behavior and are prone to perceptual and cognitive abnormalities. However, that is not what the data shows. The doctor, when asked why people with high conscientiousnesses see UFOs, said it's difficult to answer, but he thinks our data indicates there's a small statistical relationship, but further research is needed. But my guess is that people who are in high conscientious tracks might be more willing to admit to themselves they have seen something and believe it is the right thing to do to admit it. He says that alone is probably not everything in the equation, but instead combinations of other variables, specifically low scores in neuroticism and higher scores in openness, also contribute. And I wanted to see if I went to ChatGPT. I said, read this article. I said, are there traits of a person who claims to have seen a UFO the same traits as a person who simply says they believe in them? And there was nothing in the article talking about that. Like, I'd be curious what your traits have to be a person that says, I believe, but I haven't seen, because that's me. I definitely believe there are things flying around out there. But I've never seen anything, you know? Robbo says, what the fuck were the Phoenix Lights then? That shit was all over the news in the 90s. My understanding is the Phoenix Lights have been explained, and again, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but it's been explained as, weren't they flares? And there's a triangular not ship, but a plane that the Air Force was experimenting with back then in that area. So, and then Kay says there's a debunk of the flares explanation. So, I mean, everywhere you go, you're going to find, I don't know. I remember here's what I'll tell you. I was in Atlanta. I'm almost certain. I want to make sure my memory is right on this. So Phoenix Lights were when? Phoenix, like 97? Phoenix Lights was 1997. And Atlanta E3, I believe, was 1996 and 97 as well. Yes. So I was in a bar with some Sony people for Atlanta E3. And we looked up at the TV, and it was the news about the Phoenix Lights. And we were just like, what the fuck are we looking at, But since then, I've heard the flare story. I have heard the, were the Phoenix Lights a Air Force plane? That is my understanding. New video shows military involvement in Phoenix Lights. A new classified footage of the U.S. fighter jets engaging an unknown craft above Arizona skies on the night one of the world's most famous UFO sightings made its way to the internet. This was in 2014. I haven't seen this. Have you guys seen this? The Phoenix Lights were seen by thousands. The 14-second clip, which was obtained by investigative journalists, shows military craft patrolling during the Phoenix Lights sighting when a series of lights were spotted above Arizona State Capitol. So I'll do a little I'll do a little research on this. I have heard like here's a report from ABC News. Phoenix Lights mystery solved. And then but somebody in the chat inevitably, like you already have, is going to say, "Oh, that's been debunked. It wasn't that." So I don't fucking know. Whatever happened to those fake Mexican aliens, says $6. Nobody cares. They lied. Well, I saw a story just today that there's a scientist or a journalist that discovered some of those similar things in Mexico. And he's like, I don't want all this crazy bullshit that happened before. I'm going to America and I want to have scientists there really take this shit serious and tell us if we're out of our fucking minds. Here you go. Look at it. Here's the story right here. I don't lie to you guys. I'm a goddamn honest broker. New alien mummies from Peru may be sent to U.S. for DNA testing. Mexican journalist. Hey, come on now. Go back. Mexican journalist claims to have discovered alien mummies in Peru and is seeking validation from American and European scientists, right? So we'll see. Hardboiled says, I think they would need to recreate the Phoenix Lights in order to prove the explanation given. Possibly. All right, well, if it's Jamie, he's a liar. It is. It's Jamie Masson. A lot of grifters out there, boys. Keep your wits about you. Now it's part of the show where I'm giving you a warning. Okay, I'm giving you a it's not that bad, but it's where the show goes from I love the weird to I love the gross and weird. I'm not going to show anything that's going to break terms of service, but I'm going to give you an example. In one of these stories, I may have already told you guys, but it's been 3 weeks since the last I love the weird. I need to start keeping a track of what I've already talked about. Have I told you this? Here's the headline. Politician licks public toilet seat and then creates poop mustache to imitate Hitler. Do we know about this? Warning. It says graphic content. Martin Neumeyer was filmed doing some seriously sickening things and has had his political nomination withdrawn by the Free Democratic Party in Germany. Don't say bruh. I gave you a warning. Listen to this. This guy, a sick German political hopeful, has been filmed licking a urinal, a seated toilet, and smearing human feces all over his body. It's true. He was filmed taking part in what he described as a punishment, which showed him role-playing as murderous Nazi leader Adolf Hitler, but using human poo to make the mustache. The video was self-filmed and allegedly done in a public toilet of a train station and shows him basically making out with a silver urinal. Fuck you, Mr. K. Jaffe, dude, come on. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I'm reading you a news story, man. Listen to what he does. He goes over to a cubicle and does the same thing to an open-seated toilet. And we're sorry to tell you this, says the writer of the Daily Star. But then he licks the clearly used toilet brush. It went viral, only for all traces to be removed from social media. But they got it, and I'm going to show it to you. However, in an even more disgusting update, a new image of the man has emerged earlier today showing him covered head to toe in what appears to be his own poo while he's naked. And you guys, you know what's funny about you fucking people in the chat? You don't get to act like this is gross and then get all high and mighty with me when I tell you I ain't eating ass. Because what's the difference? What's the difference? Listen. And to make it so much worse, they continue, there's another video of him pleasuring himself with a dildo while singing the Nazi national anthem, Deutschland, Deutschland, Uber Allies. This is some news, boys. The sick bloke is the Free Democratic Party's candidate for the Ostalb district. Nobody has any idea how the footage was made public, and the bloke has yet to comment. They did reach out to a medical expert, the Daily Star, just to see how bad this was in terms of his health. This is what the doctor says. A fellow who likes to go by the name Garth Nye. This is what Garth says. He says, toilets, especially public ones, are not something I would ever recommend someone licking. This goes even more for toilet brushes and other related tools. Good news for the person is they're extremely likely to pick up any STIs from this activity, with viral-based STIs not surviving more than a few seconds on a surface like a seat. It wouldn't be likely to die from this, but you're certainly going to be quite unwell and have some nasty GI problems like diarrhea. You know, it reminds me of, what do you mean, is anybody buying this? What can I do for you? Look, it's buy it, don't buy it. Here's the story. Here he is licking the toilet. I mean, I guess it could be a deep fake, but I'm pretty sure it's not. They're not going to show you. Oh, here he is licking the toilet brush. I mean, come on, man. Come on, man. I don't have the video. It says it's been scrubbed from social media, but I do have stills from it. If somebody can find it, they'll probably get me banned, though, or my channel, whatever they do with it. But yeah, maybe he was just drunk. I don't know. But the point of this story is, wow, that's funny. It is funny. It is funny. What's the motivation for him doing it, Movie Maniac? Nobody knows. He hasn't said. Nobody knows how it ended up. He just, apparently it says it was described as a punishment. So maybe like he has some mistress somewhere and it's like, you have to go do this and put it on the internet. I don't fucking know. It's a smear campaign. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right. Or maybe he lost a bet. Right. It does get a little bit worse, boys. It does get a little bit worse. Not particular. Oh, how should one deal with insomnia? Honestly, again, I should charge like $100 an hour. No, more than that. Like a good therapist charges, because I know everything. There's actually a story that I was going to cover on this show, but I didn't find it weird enough. But one of the current trends amongst sleep doctors for insomnia is training their patients, I shit you not, how to lucid dream. And if you know what that means, it means you can control your dreams in REM state. And apparently that has been a very successful pilot program amongst these doctors. So, I mean, you can't snap your fingers tonight and lucid dream probably, but they said they taught the patients. It took them about two weeks to learn. And they were off to the races. So, okay, listen to this. Listen to this one. Last thing about poo, I promise, but this is fascinating. Now, this happened in May, so I'm a little bit behind the times, and I apologize. What we know about the disgusting Italian petrol pump sex act. I haven't seen this. Apparently, it's flooding social media. Not my social media. Listen to this. A very, very strange bloke in Italy was caught shoving the nozzle from a gas pump up his tush while pleasuring himself at the same time. There's pictures, folks. They're they're pixeled out, but he literally is. And I don't know if he was putting gasoline up his tush or if he just held it up there or if he was squeezing the handle. Man, he was just like, I got to come when it gets to 25. He has like OCD. So he's like masturbating going, if it gets to $25, I'll come, but it can't go over. And so he's just like, ding, 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 the strange clip, which has gone viral, left people with far more questions than answers. It's an elderly looking man standing at a petrol station, literally shoving the hose up his butt while masturbating. He turns his head to see if anybody's looking and appears to spot the person filming, and he starts shouting at him. He very slowly, he is quite old, takes the nozzle out of his butt, removes the other hand from his genitals, and pulls up his pants. You're not getting a free show on me, buddy, he said. I added that. I don't know if he said that. He says, unbelievable. What are you doing? The man, that's when he shouted. We also found out what would happen should you wish to have gasoline enema. Please don't. It would be extremely painful, and you probably would end up dead without immediate medical assistance. So he may not have had it going. But that's real. That's real. Humans are weird. Yeah. Yeah. You know what's not weird about humans? Look at this. Come on, man. Ninjas on jetpacks. I mean, what more do I need to do? What more do I need to do to earn your vote, to earn your loyalty, to earn your like, your membership, your subscription, your ability to go out onto the internet once we complete this show and tell everybody all over the internet about how great this show is? If I can't bring you to that conclusion after delivering unto you ninja samurai with jetpacks, well, then you, my friend, have standards that are really fucking way too high. Look at that. That's some cool shit, boys. Sci-fi samurai. If I was still making games, you goddamn right. You goddamn right I would do that. Come on, man. Come on, man. What do you mean there's no way these are real stories? I'm literally showing it to you. Look, what's the problem? Come on, man. What do you mean too bad it's fake, you fucking idiot? What's fake about it? Jetpacks are real. And it's not trying to tell you they're fucking ninjas that came through time. They're just fucking dudes in jetpacks. God, some of you people. Now, I'm going to show you two more quick things. This is, nothing bad happens. I'm going to give you a warning because this looks like this could have gone. Okay, are they standing on drones? Cool. Awesome. I don't give a shit. I don't think they are, but let's assume for the moment they're standing on drones is how they pulled it off. Okay, I don't think so. But okay, that's still bad? I don't give a fuck. Wait. It's cool and it's real. Shut up. Just you're wrong. Just accept the joy of the video. Look at this. Now, nothing bad happens in this, but you would not be wrong for assuming something bad is about to go fucking really bad. That's right. Jaffe's agnostic unless you talk about the jetpacks. That's right. I watched this with my butthole clenched, as the kids say. Can you imagine? Kids say that. Look at this. This just makes me nervous. Those are steak knives, I believe. Oh, you can't see it. Hang on. Hang on. You can't see it. Sorry, fellas. Here you go. Check it out. So they each have one of these little blades in their mouth. Okay. I mean, this could have gone so bad. And it's one of those, it's one of those dull knife situations that you know if it would have gone bad, it would have been worse than a sharp knife, right? It would have just been like, oh my fucking God, that's just horrifically terrible. All right. Rising Star, you're on the show. What's up, baby?
Hey, Jaffe, how you doing?
I am doing good. How are you?
Good, good. No, I was just looking at what you were saying earlier about the alien civilizations. Have you ever looked at into the Kardashev scale?
Is that the scale about the advanced civilizations or something? Like, depending on where you are on the scale, you're like a level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 civilization?
Yeah, right now we're like a point 0.7 estimatedly, like around there.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't reached the type 1 yet.
Because type one means that you've been able to engineer the ability to get off planet. Is that right?
No, it means that you've been able to consume all the energy of a planet. A type 2 civilization would be you're able to control the energy of the whole solar system.
Okay.
Type 3 would be able to control the solar system and its star. A type 4 would be able to do that with a galaxy, and then so forth. No, I think a type 3 is able to. A type 2 is able to control the star and its solar system, and then a type 3 it's able to control.
Okay, so we're not even at 1 yet. I did see, by the way, we saw this news story about a year ago, but there's another discovery now that some scientists have discovered what might be a Dyson sphere, which would indicate you're at a type 2 or type 3. I assume, because that's where you basically surround the sun with satellites and solar panels, and you're able to use the energy of the sun and harness it and direct it however you want. And they had this person on the news, or actually the person they had on the news was an astrophysicist who said, there are natural explanations for it, but if you read the paper, a lot of the natural explanations have now been weeded out, which doesn't mean it's aliens and doesn't mean it's a Dyson sphere. It just means that it's so far all the natural explanations have not panned out, and so it increases the likelihood that it is not organic, but it's actually something someone put there, which I think is fucking amazing. But we're certainly not there yet, for sure.
Yeah, we're far from there.
Because and who knows if we'll survive. I mean, that's the big thing, right? Can a civilization survive long enough to make it to a 1 or a 2 or a 3? Mr. K says the last I heard it was a ring of gas and debris. You're talking about the one from like a year ago, right? Where they were seeing the blinking and they were like, oh, this might be that because it's no objects actually, blink on and off like that at that irregularity.
No objects actually.
But this is a new one that I just saw. So we'll see. Rising Star, though, I think it's fascinating. Anything else? What's going on? Alexa, stop.
I was going to ask you, why don't you make would you ever be willing to make like a cryptocurrency game, and just innovate that whole new platform and bring it to life, give it life?
Not really. I mean, not because here's the reason why with cryptocurrency. Every time I ask the most obvious question, nobody can answer it. And because of that, I continue to think it's horseshit.
Well, I can give you the answer. Last time you asked, how can you transfer a gun into other games?
There's two questions. One is that part. Yeah. The idea that, if you buy a gun in Call of Duty, it'll work in God of War. Hang on. That one. But the bigger one is all the stuff that these guys are saying you can only do on the blockchain is not true. You can do all this shit. I mean, you maybe not the same technical way, but the idea that it's like, if you buy this from Ubisoft, you own it. It's yours. It's like, okay, well, have the lawyers draft up a memo that says when you buy this digital item, it's not the license, you actually own it, and you're done. I don't understand what I can get out of a Web3 game that I can't get out of a game right now.
Well, what I would think is in a way of owning owning a game. Like if they could just own it, sell it to you as an NFT, a game as an NFT, and then you got a license to practically another way of just buying it besides PlayStation Store or the Xbox.
Yeah, but that's not game design. That's just maybe a business model comes along and says, hey, not that a studio would want to do that. They like having the control of being able to turn off the license if they want. But you're just describing a different way that if the powers that be think there's more money to be made doing that, they could.
Yeah,
but that doesn't change the game. The game itself is still the game.
Yeah, that's blockchain technology, but yeah, like you could, well, yeah, that's what I think. It's another way of ownership. And on top of that, you said, how is it that well, they would have to build an engine from scratch that would be where developers would be like, oh, okay, we could all use it. But it would have to be something where it's open source to everybody.
But why would anybody want that? Like, why would, as a one-time game designer, why would I want you to be able to bring in a sword from Onimusha into Twisted Metal Black and just totally destroy the balance of my game?
Well, not to put a sword of Onimusha into Twisted Metal Black, but if it's something like, if you buy like an item, I would say some object in a game that doesn't really affect the game much, and then you could take it from game to game. Like, I guess.
But it's so not. I mean, you'd have to come up with some compelling scenarios where I'm like, dude, that sounds cool. But nothing you're saying, and not that this is a you issue. There's nothing anyone has said whenever they try to, pitch this. Nothing. I've never heard like, okay, that's fucking cool. It's always been like, well, it doesn't sound compelling. But here's what I'll tell you. There's one more game I want to make, and I would love to if the situation presents itself. But I'm not jumping through the hoops to go raise the money. So it would require somebody reaching out to me and saying, Jaffe, we want to hear what you want to make. It's not that expensive. We'll do all the stuff you suck at, and you just do the stuff you're good at. Then I'd make a game. But for me to do all the heavy lifting, it's not fun to do the heavy lifting of stuff like raising money, flying around, building a team. I have no interest in any of that. It's too much work. I've already done it, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing now so much more.
Yeah, right now there's a whole new atmosphere of games that are gonna just show up now with the virtual reality games.
I don't know. I was a big VR. I still think VR is really cool. I think AR is way more cool. I think AR is going to change the fucking world. But I don't think VR is necessarily, unless it's like on the Apple Vision Pro, you can flip the VR switch and you're totally immersed. But the thing about VR is it's a wonderful spatial experience, but it doesn't improve the moment-to-moment gameplay. And in fact, it distracts from it because a lot of people get hot and you get motion sickness. I don't, but I mean, it's really immersive, but that's a spatial sense of immersion. But the gameplay itself is still the same game. And at that point, you're going to go with what's cheaper and less of a burden to get into. So I'm there. I'm a big believer in all kinds of new tech and new shit, but I haven't seen it as it relates to Web3 or crypto or VR. But hey, my mind is open. All right, man. Thank you for calling.
One more thing.
Yep.
Did you see the new the Apple keynote recent?
I skimmed through it. I saw bits of it. Yeah, which part specifically?
Yeah, they're gonna now OpenAI. I remember Microsoft had to pay OpenAI like $10 billion for it to be integrated into Microsoft's browser. So what was it? The one that they use? Apple and OpenAI. Practically, they're not even going to exchange numbers. So they're not even going to exchange money. The way they ended up making it is that OpenAI is going to help Apple by it's going to help ChatGPT.
Yeah. Have on Apple Intelligence, right? Which is great. I mean, because Siri right now is a fucking nightmare. I use ChatGPT now all the time, and I have it hooked up so I can speak to it, and it talks to me, and I'm just like. It's like going from a conversation now with like a toddler to a conversation with just like, I don't fucking know, like a college graduate or a graduate student graduate or whatever, a doctorate. And I don't want to go back. It's just absolutely wonderful to talk to ChatGPT 4.0, and it's only going to get better. But yeah, I'm glad Apple's doing it because comparatively speaking, both Siri and Amazon's are rubbish.
Well, yeah, this whole thing is going to help Apple, both companies, because it's going to help Apple boost them up like with the AI.
Gotcha,
And
gotcha.
that's
Hey, how much pot have
AI.
you done? How much pot have you done today?
Wow, a lot.
Copious amounts of pot, am I right?
Yeah, a lot
What's
on
your
top.
what's your favorite strand?
OG Kush.
Good for you, sir. Enjoy that. Call back anytime. Good to talk to you, man.
You too.
All right. I do use Perplexity, Mr. K, from time to time. I don't like it as a. I don't like talking to Perplexity. It's very much like, you know. Here's what I'll see. What I'll say. ChatGPT is like speaking with a woman, and Perplexity is like speaking with a guy. Is what I would say, because you can go to Perplexity and get great. Step-by-step instructions of how to fix an engine or how to, oh, my toilet's plugged up or whatever. But you can't really get into a neat, fun conversation about the deep and meaningful parts of life with Perplexity. So I'm more of a feminine side person when it comes to chatting and talking. Now, I bring this up because I think I showed this on a Gabbin and Games because I was so disturbed by it. But I don't remember. So if I brought this up on the last show, just let me know. Because what I do is I leave all the tabs open in a tab folder called Weird. And if I don't get to them on this show, I roll them into the next and think if I want to put them on that one. So this may be old news. All I can tell you is these fucking crazy people think this guy is the reincarnation of some divine dude who died, and now he's back as that kid. And I just think, I'm sorry, this is so grody to me. Okay, I've already talked about it. Yeah, I have no new news on it. It was just still in the folder. I guess I must have talked about it on a previous show. All right, there you go. Well, then, you know, oh, it's so gross. It is so fucking disturbing. Okay, let me get to this question. Jaffe, have you done the Apple Vision Pro demo? No, I have not, and I want to. My nephew just bought one, but he's in Alabama, and I would very much like to, we're planning on going down there soon. I want to play with it, but the thing that makes me love the Vision Pro so far more than anything that I've seen is the, what is it? The spatial thing, where it's like the other person's hands and head, but it's floating in your space. So instead of just seeing like a window, I've shown you guys this. We've talked about this. That is really cool because that feels like they're really there with you. And I'm down for that. I'm in for that. So, all right. So listen, fellas, that's the show, man. That is, I love the weird. That's all I got. That's all I got, man. Oh, that's an interesting idea, Gun. Publish all the stories in a one tab. What's a one tab, though? Let me put that up. I'll look it up after this. Is that like something other people can get? Yeah, that's a great idea. One tab. Hang on. Okay, I'll look it up. Cool. Thanks for that suggestion. Okay, so listen. I'm happy to take calls, but no one's calling in, man. What do you want from me? If you want to call in, the number's been at the top the whole time. Here's what I'll tell you, though, real quick. Tomorrow, there's Bukaki. Tomorrow, I will be on Colin's show. I don't know if it's a Sacred Symbols Plus, but it's Moriarty times Jaffe or whatever that's called. That is tomorrow. Hoping to have some other stuff up. By the way, this channel now has a clips channel. You can find it on my Twitter, but I'm going to make a video on it so you can go from there. So I'm going to start putting all the clips over there. I'll get Zim. I'll get you in a second, buddy. And then obviously, the rest of the week is normal Gabbin and Games. I may go on a show Tuesday because I've not been on Jez Corden's show yet, and they invited me on, and I would like to see what that's all about. But I'll be on the internet all over, and I'll be present and accounted for. It just may not be on a show on this channel. But follow me on Twitter, follow me on the Discord, on the YouTube community notes, and you'll be able to find me if you want to hang out some more later in the week. In the meantime, let's get Zim. Zim, it's Jaffe. What's going on?
Not much, man. Just been thinking about this whole simulation theory thing. The whole theory that we're in the simulation.
Yes.
All right, so you're familiar with quantum mechanics and the whole
Well,
observation theory?
I'm familiar with it enough to sort of understand at a layperson's level what the suggestions are of how a lot of this stuff contributes possibly to multi-world theory and simulation theory and blah blah blah. But I can't get into like quarks and how it works mathematically or string theory or any of that stuff.
Hey man, I'm drinking a beer, smoking a blunt, so I ain't gonna get too tight to my damn self.
That'll probably take you right where you need to go though. But
so look,
yeah.
no, it's a theory that like objects that we see are only solid when we observe them, when we see them, and when we don't see them, particle scatters.
It's
right?
Like, what is it called? The dual slit experiment, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I remember Mark Cerny being at the E3 talking about how the SSD will work, or the what is it called?
Solid state drive.
Yeah, SSD will work, and that objects that we see on the screen will be in front of us, but what's behind the player isn't loaded up. And until you turn,
it's not being processed. It's not even the SSD, but I mean all games they are mathematically the rendering of the environment is based on what you can see or what you need to see within a very short amount of time. Whereas the stuff that's off screen, there's no reason to actually render it, although all the data is sitting there waiting for the instant it gets sort of metaphorically called on the stage. Exactly. And that's probably how life works too.
Yeah, like Ron. So yeah, it's weird. So if we draw that parallel, it kind of sounds like we're in a damn computer program our damn self. You know? And if we have people that can see the future, you got people that claim that they can see the future. That means that the future is already written. It's almost like a programmer, or a player putting in the cheat code and being able to see the last boss, without playing the game.
Yeah. I mean, and there's also, again, a lot of this is very speculative, but I mean, most science is speculative at some point, but there are people who say that time itself is all happening at the same time and we just can't perceive it. We perceive it linearly. But if you were able to step back and observe it like in the fourth dimension or whatever, it would be like looking at a book, and whatever page you flip to is the page you're on, but it's all already been written, and the beginning is happening at the same time as the end. So I buy it.
Yeah, would that make our reality the organic form of a program? Like, let's say that, like what you said, if you're in the fourth dimension, you'll be able to step back and move through time at will. So is our reality basically the building blocks or a creation of the fourth dimension?
Well, again, maybe what's been really interesting is if you go back and look at the footage of the Tennessee, one of the Tennessee House Representative guys at a federal level. He's the representative of one of the districts in Tennessee. He was in a lot of these David Grush meetings and UFO, UAP and all that. And he's the guy that came out, if I remember correctly, to the press. And when they asked him about aliens, he says, no one said aliens. Grush didn't say aliens. What Grush said is becoming more and more proven out. He says, but he didn't say aliens. He said interdimensional beings. And the idea that the ability to move from their dimension in the fourth dimension, possibly into our dimension, the fact that you have an elected representative on the side of Republicans, and then you also have Democrats saying, we're talking about interdimensional beings, we're not talking about aliens.
Right.
That's fucking pretty. The fact that hasn't been front page news, and stayed there staggers me. And Addy Pie, I'm not even in the chat. Addy Pie says Grush is a grifter. I don't think that's been proven out by any means, but even if he is, it's not just they're listening to him. They're going into these things they call, SCIFs, which I don't know what it stands for, but it's like real private meetings off the record. And in those meetings, they're hearing from a lot of other people that are parroting and or confirming this shit. So I'm not saying I believe that's what's going on, but it does start to make more and more sense. And it kind of starts to make more and more sense when you think about these ships that are moving in really weird ways.
The guy said that it was moving like a mouse pointer on a screen.
Right. And it makes sense that you can move through dimensions like that, but you try moving through the third dimension like that, and there ain't no harness in the world that's going to keep you from getting pulverized, unless it's a drone and there's no human in there or organic life in there. The minute it does a 90-degree turn going Mach 12, you're going to just be, guts on the windshield.
Yeah.
So, but if you actually aren't moving at all, you're just repositioning yourself in a different dimension. Our perception would be that it's moving like that, but to them, it's just probably normal travel.
Things here that we can't perceive, that we haven't even really discovered yet. I put in the comments an hour ago that Europeans just discovered North America like 600 years ago. Who's to say that there's a advanced civilization that we can't really perceive, or something that we can't see?
Oh yeah, I want to show you. Let me see if I can get this. I saw somebody sent me today or a couple days ago a TED talk about a guy who is working on using artificial intelligence to try to translate animals, right? Like dolphins and whales and shit. But he brought up a chart. I want to show you this chart real quick. Let me get to my history so I can show it to you. Where is it? Here we go. Let me bring this over here. Okay, hang on.
Hey, that would be fucking crazy, dog. If we
I'm going to put this in the chat for people who want to watch it. It's really interesting. It's not fringe crazy shit. He's talking about how they actually use this shit. But that's not my main point right now. My main point is he's talking about exactly what you're saying, which is our ability to perceive. He brings up a chart. Here it is. He says, this is the human experience on your screen. Like if you look at time and space and different frequencies and infrared and things that we can see and hear, on this chart, this is a sliver. We only can perceive a sliver of what's around us.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, who the fuck?
Hey, and those cameras that are picking up that UAP, those UAP activity around the bases, that thing that, what was it called? The spaghetti UAP.
Is that the one that kind of almost looked like a bunch of balloons, or the thing on Hoth and Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah,
sort of floating.
The camera was using some sort of FLIR technology. That's
right. That's right. Because if you looked at it with your own eye, there was nothing there, right?
Yeah,
but if you looked at it through,
and they ain't see it. But they had like enhanced it, and it kind of looked like a guy sitting in the suit, like a small big head, little creature sitting in the suit, and the extensions were sort of like propellers or some crazy shit. But it's right there, and it's around the military bases. I don't know if they communicating with those guys, or they just interested to see. Hey, let's see.
The fun part about all this, the annoying part about all this is that it's hard to know what to take seriously and who's just out grifting. But there is actual evidence, although I don't know if it points to what a lot of people say it's pointing to, that I think it was Eisenhower met with apparently aliens or alien liaisons and made a deal with the American government in 1956 and said, hey, look, we'll let you take people up to experiment on them, but they can't remember it, and there was a lot of weird shit going on. But again, is that literally what it meant? I don't fucking know. But there's some weird shit going on, man, and I love digging into it, and I hope we can all survive long enough to see at least what part of it's true and what part of it's bullshit.
We just need another leap in techtechnology.
We're getting there. Hey, we're getting there with AI, man. We'll get there.
Wow, yeah.
2027 is the big rumor. It's going to be, we're going to have general artificial intelligence, or general intelligence, which is much more intelligent than artificial intelligence. It's going to be smarter than we are. So hopefully we'll be around for it. So, all right, Zim, I appreciate the call, buddy. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching.
Sure.
All right. See you, Lynn. People say the stream's getting laggy. I don't know why it would be. But if it is, hit refresh. That might solve it for you. It's fine on my end. In the meantime, though, there you go, buddies. That is I Love the Weird for June, what is it, the 16th. Like I said, I'm on the internet all week. Consider a membership. Consider a sub. Like the video if you like the video. The next I Love the Weird coming up Saturday or Sunday of next week. I've checked out the double slit experiment. I'm very familiar with it. It's very cool. And I'll let you know what the remote viewing object was. I'm looking at it right now. So if you're watching this after the fact, go back and watch it again. Really focus, really concentrate, and see if we can make some cool shit happen. In the meantime, be well, be safe. And it's so dumb. It would be so great to be comfortable saying something like, in the meantime, be well, be safe, and stay weird. But that's so dumb. So instead, I'll just do this. See ya.